everybody, and welcome to another walkthrough of the Textguides with me, Tommy, that's my name, and Matthew. Hello, buddy. Erelic Gaming is in the house. Welcome.
What's up, Mr. Tommy? Thank you so much for having me back.
Honestly, I'm so super hyped, really. It was a long time ago we did this. You know, I've been postponing, you know, just blaming my baby boy, you know, for not having time. RJTV as well. Welcome, sir.
What's going on, man? Awesome to be here as usual. And after having 3 kids, it's definitely not using them as an excuse. It's just a fact of life. That and the 9-hole tournaments also made it a little hectic.
Holy cow. Yeah, really, the 9-hole tournament. Are we happy that we haven't had anyone this week, or are we sad about it? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a little of both. I think it's good when we have them every couple of tournaments, but maybe not back to back.
Yeah, I don't mind having them every week because I love getting on and streaming and being with the crew. However, you know, it is a lot. It is a lot. I could see myself getting burned out. So I am enjoying the break.
It has been an insane time, really. As you said, we have mini tournaments, we have had a major, and now it seems like we're back to a regular schedule. But that means that we are going to go into this tournament a little bit more relaxed. And, you know, maybe we can see ourselves performing a little bit better, you know, in the end. You know, I don't know if you guys are watching, I've been performing really well, but at least for myself, you know, that's something that I look forward to. But, you know, we're gonna talk about all the text guides, the general text guides for the Akacha Reserve, which is the course that we're gonna play in the Safari Sunrise tournament. Matthew is going to cover rookie, RJ is going to talk about pro and expert, and me myself, I'm gonna talk about master. And as always, use the comment section below and ask questions, whatever question you might have. And, you know, whoever that see the question, doesn't matter if Matthew, RJ, or me, we're gonna be there to try to help you out. And as well, don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels. You can find, obviously, my channel, Golf/Tommy. You have Erelic Gaming as Matthew's channel, and then it's RJTV as Roy's channel. It's not often I say his first name that way, but that sounds good. So press the subscribe button, that's gonna be awesome. Also, the ultimate tournament text guides, best guides on the market, you find the link to patreon.com/golf/Tommy in the description down below. So just some final thoughts here before we start, guys. What do you think is gonna be the score to qualify for the weekend round? Then we're gonna take the winning score in the end.
Boy, I'm always so generous. I think it's going to be lower than I usually think. I think rookies are going to get in with a 10 or an 11, no problem.
Oh, yeah, just getting in, I would say probably 10 or 11. If you get a 10, you're going to be watching on the bubble. If you get 11, you should be safe. But, you know, we never know with the wins that they have. There might be more gimmies than not. So don't hold me to it, because we're not privy to that information until you guys are.
I really wish we would, but, you know, we're gonna obviously have to guess. But I see the same as you guys. I think, you know, in the start, as always in Master, a lot of people are practicing. So if you're gonna take a stab at Master, might do that on Monday to get yourself through, maybe with a -8, 9, 10, depending on the wind. But then obviously coming day 2 and day 3, I'm thinking, you know, -12 is gonna be needed, which is supposedly to be the, you know, par score or whatever we can call it in Master. But let's get on with our So for hole number 1, we start off with a par 4. Matthew, how do we play hole 1 from front tee?
Well, hopefully with an eagle. Hole 1, I like to play the right side. I think mostly like everyone, with a quarterback, at least a marlin ball. Don't be afraid on this course, you know, to use the best you've got. It is a tournament. Just 10% downhill for the drive. 4 to 6 bars of topspin and 4 right spin. Now be careful here. If we have a lot of tailwind, you know, I'm going to start more cautiously and just see how it goes. We don't want to be in the rough at all. Even though we can reach, we really want to make sure we get this eagle. Depending on the distance of the drive, I'll either play a backbone or a thorn for the second shot. 10% downhill there as well. Make sure you use about, you know, 2 to 3 bars of backspin as per your routine with those clubs. And RJ, what do you do from the second tee?
Very similar, because it is the second tee. We're going to be using a Rock 6 Plus if we have the proper wind, meaning no headwind whatsoever. You should be able to get over with not much problem. Maybe you might have to throw a Power 1, Power 2 ball in there. 2 to 4 topspin is what I got with full right spin, jumping over the sand to the island where you see the black line there. That'll set you up for a 10% Goliath or short iron to the pin. Just like Matthew said, that shot's pretty much the same. What do you got in Masters there, Tommy?
Yeah, I have pretty much the same as well. It's a pretty straightforward hole, but I'm also going to touch base a little bit about the white lines. But if we do have a tailwind or a crosswind, the black line makes more sense, as we will get into short iron range most likely, and then we will be able to play actually with a more like a wind ball, like a wind 5 power 3 ball, baseball, 3-point and burns ball. There is plenty of them nowadays. And then we can play that one, and we have a short iron with less than 10 miles per hour towards the pin. It's 10% for the drive, 10% for the second shot playing on the right. But if we're gonna go left, which is going to be the way to play, in my opinion, when we do have some sort of headwind involved, because then we're going to have to overpower our drive going right. I'm not interested in that, because then we're going to look then we're going to lose the possibility for a consistent drive and then, a consistent yardage note. So therefore we then play over to the left, which will in the end get us to a rough bump with our sniper or with a long iron with a decent amount of topspin, like a level 7 B52 or with a Goliath level 8 plus, which is going to be a very interesting route, in my opinion, to actually be able to do a rough bump there from the left. And I play the elevation the same there, 10% for the drive, 10% over for the second shot. So this is, in my opinion, from the 30 at least, going to be a must eagle, no matter how we look at it in the end. Hole number 2, the first of the par 5. I don't like this one, but that might just be me. Matthew, how do we play hole 2 from front tee?
Well, this is it's a long par 5. I think most rookie players should be playing really just for the eagle, and because even that's not guaranteed. You'll see a few albatrosses, but not really. Adjust your drive for 10% downhill with a power 3 ball. I usually go with a Titan here, but Kingmaker is not wrong, especially because of that drive. A little bit of extra right spin can make it a bit more easy. But again, rookie players, depends what you've got in your bag. Use an extra mile or a quarterback, 3 bars of topspin, max right spin. And this is where you're going to also want to put about a half a ball of right curl just to make sure we get over cleanly. Second shot, bring your big dog, until we see the tournament wind. I'm going to start with that. Absolutely. 20% downhill. And then if the drive isn't, quite long enough, I'm going to go to the right of that last bunker just to play it a little bit safe and leave myself a chip to the green. RJ, is it any easier to get an albatross from the second tee?
I think an albatross is just dumb luck, to be completely honest. I got 10% off the drive. Honestly, I feel like this hole doesn't look much like hole number 1, but it plays kind of similar on the drive. Instead of a Rock 6, though, I have Rock 8 plus, and I would say you're going to want to use a power 3 ball. So if you don't want to use a power 3 ball, you may want to go up a little higher to, your extra mile or whatever better available club you have. You don't need much topspin, as that little pad of fairway there isn't very large, usually about 2 or 3, but again, this is all wind dependent. I go with full right spin, and I use about a half ball of right curl. Depending on how my ball guide looks on that second patch of fairway will depend on how much curl I add after I've already added the full right spin. For a second shot, we got 20%. For those of us that have, a decent big dog, I would say that would be the best way to go. And by decent, I don't mean it's got to be, the highest of high or anything like that. There's just something so satisfying about being able to bounce over the sand trap towards the pin rather than trying to sneak through on the right-hand side with, the insane precision that it would take. However, if you're finding that you can't get your drive up high enough, or maybe your big dog isn't doing what you need it to do, A horizon could definitely be an option here. It does lack backspin, but we're not going to be using much backspin. And now it has an amazing ball guide as well. Either way, I highly recommend this to be one of your shots that you bring a power 3 ball minimum, no matter what, not for the drive, but for the second shot, which is 20% if I haven't mentioned that. What you got for us, Tommy?
Yeah, from Master T, or like from the third tee, I do believe we're gonna see actually a decent amount of birdies, especially, you know, when it comes to having like a crosswind or a headwind in some sort. Tailwind, I think we are going to have no problem, as the wind is going to help out. Also, as as we saw there above us from Matthew's camera, yes, we can send it with a very strong wind, but I hope we're not getting that, because if we get a strong wind, like a straight tailwind, we can take a wind 0 power 5 and actually technically reach the green if we are a little bit lucky with our bounces, because we are gonna be able to carry over basically everything. And I hope it's not gonna come to that, because this is a hole that I think is going to be played based by, you know, skill, meaning that we have 2 shots that we're gonna do well to either get a drop or just lock in the eagle. So if we're gonna pretend that we're not gonna have a good tailwind here, then we're going to have to play over to the right, as both of the fine gentlemen has explained. We play the same way, using as much side spin to the right possible. The more side spin, the better. So I would suggest actually a power 4 ball, side spin 3, like a Kingmaker X. In a worst case scenario, I would like to see a cyber ball, side spin 2, wind 4, and power 4. And obviously, for those of you not having any of them, we can go up and play with a power 5 ball using a power 5 side spin 1 and then wind 3, like a season 18 stealth ball or something like that. Just get it over there, because in the end, I'm not looking at this one as an albatross hole. I'm looking at this one as, how should we get the eagle in the most, like in the easiest way possible? And then the correct ball is gonna be very handy here, or like come very handy here. Cataclysm for the second shot. If you're playing Master and you're not even having the Cataclysm level 4, I think it's not maybe time for you to play Master. So Cataclysm level 4 as minimum. And then you're gonna bounce yourself over the bunker, getting yourself to the pin. Make sure that you are really noticing the fact that you do not need that much backspin to bounce over the bunker, as using too much backspin you're going to end up in the bunker, especially if you bounce on the downhill slope that is just before the bunker. So there's a lot of technicalities here for this hole, and I do guess that this is going to be a hole that we might gonna have to, you know, scrap a little bit and then focus on the other ones to get our drops. 10% over adjustment for the drive, 20% for the second shot, exactly as from the other tees. Hole number 3, the first par 3. So how do we play it from front tee?
Well, I definitely prefer to play here with the sniper if I've got it. Sniper 4 plus is usually what I work with. Otherwise, I go with a Viper here. You're going to try to bounce over that sand on the right-hand side with a side spin 2, like a Quasar, or a Katana ball, a power 2 side spin 3 ball, I believe, to make it to the hole. I think that's a really good choice if you've got it. 10% downhill for your adjustment. And make sure to put at least a couple of bars of backspin so that you don't roll into that bunker in the back of the green. And then basically just going to play it according to the tournament wins. But that's generally the route. Mr. RJ, are you going to play the rough bump here in Pro and Expert?
No. Why would I do that? No. Okay. I just wanted to see your expression. This is a 10% hole, sniper max distance, which also equates to 1-to-1 plus 1. Which is very helpful to some people. I got 4 backspin and 2.5 right spin. Because it's 2.5 right spin, a navigator would work really well here if you're trying to save on your balls. And the way that I play as well is blue ring by the right rough, right where that box is. How are you playing it, Tommy?
Yeah, I play it the same as you guys, but we might, from the 30, depending on the wind, going to play the rough bump. But I'm not going to go into any details with that, because it kind of depended on having at least, you know, a crosswind, if I'm not mistaken, because with a straight tail we're gonna go in between clubs. That's at least what I remember it as, but we haven't played this hole many times from the 13 tournament, so I'm gonna leave that aside for now. But if we're gonna play with a fairway bounce going towards the pin, side spin 3 ball from 30, then we can kind of, sure, we might not need all the side spin 3 if we do have a wind coming left to right, but if we have a wind coming right to left, we most definitely need all the side spins. So a wind 5, power 1, side spin 3, feather, Daruma, or Kraken. I love that ball. Those type of balls is the ones that I would go to at least as a start, and then we don't really know where we're gonna end up in the end. From the third tee, as we play a little bit higher up than from the second and front tee, we play 20% over adjustment, so the elevation is slightly changed compared to the other tee boxes here on hole number 3. Hole number 4, a par 4, and I'm very curious how we're going to approach this one and get the eagle. So Matthew, how do we get the eagle from front tee?
It's definitely makeable here. I play the drive 0% elevation, power 1 or better ball, typically with the extra mile. You know, I'm going to add maximum top spin, maximum left spin, and you're going to bounce following the black line typically. But you want to make sure to bounce on the top of that first fairway, right where that black box is. Don't get too close to the edges. Otherwise, your ball can do some pretty sad things like clip the rough or even end up in that bunker. And then basically, you know, try to roll it up as far as you can and close to that second black box. And the second shot is also played at 0%. I think most players here are going to bring a Hornet, if they have it, for its top spin and attempt the rough bump to the pin. However, don't discredit the straightforward approach with the Thorn. That rough bump has proven to be a little bit unreliable for me in the past. So, I mean, it depends on your preference. Definitely are both options. So, I mean, it's going to be an eagle hole, though. That's the bottom line, right, Mr. RJ? Show us the way, my friend, to another eagle on the par 4.
You know, it was funny. We were just reminiscing in between shots. This is actually the one where Tommy was gracious enough to caddy me, and you know, he just told me numbers over the stream, and I dropped it, and I couldn't believe it. Amazing time. I think that was not the last summer major, but the major before. I'm not. Anyway. I have Thor's hammer, and I also have, you know, or whatever driver you have that has a lot of top spin and distance. Technically, if you know you're going to hit perfect, you could even use a big topper here in a lower level. The reason for this is because you're not going to be necessarily in maximum distance of your club. You're not going to be in medium, but you're not going to need like the most distance possible, because Matthew actually brought up an excellent point about wanting to stay away from where it starts to curve down towards the rough and the bunker. I actually tried, while making my notes, I tried experimenting with that. And technically there's something that can work because it's dome shaped. If you land your ball on the downside of that dome, you could get a longer bounce. It's kind of like a fringe glitch. Your ball will shoot out instead of up a little bit more. But unfortunately, I did end up in the right rough. So I would have had to put a little left curl on it. And I don't know how consistent that shot is. So if you just play it straight up exactly the way Matthew just said it, you should be left with a short iron shot, or if you get enough top spin on there going, possibly even a wedge shot. And yeah, you could either play the rough bump, or if you're not comfortable with that, bring something with a lot of backspin like a Thorn. How you playing that, Tommy?
We're gonna play the same way as you guys so explicitly said, or like exemplary. I didn't find the yeah, okay. Woohoo! Yes, we're gonna play right side, and we're gonna bounce on the fairway over to the, you know, continue to be on the fairway, and we want to get to minimum distance short iron. Thorn, Falcon, Hornet, you know, I don't care. Play with the one that you feel the most comfortable with, that will get you the drop. Because that's the only thing that matters on this hole here. Sure, with a massive headwind, or like a straight headwind in your face, and you're not able to use any type of wind 5 balls, like a baseball and Burns ball, 3-point ball and stuff like that, then you're forced to play left side. the white line. And if you're gonna do that, then it's not game over for the eagle, but you're not gonna win the tournament. That I can actually stretch it to that at least. So here, be prepared using some type of wind ball if you do have a straight head wind, but with any other type of wind, we should be able to just get it down there using yardage notes. So every time you make your drive, if it says 350 or whatever it will say, write it down, and you know, so you get that one dialed in as soon as possible. My goal is to have this one dialed in with yardage notes already by Monday. And in that way, I can then focus on the other holes, because then I already have that dialed in, because I've already made my homework. If you do the rough bump, have in mind that it is a bit finicky to play that one due to the fringe can cause problems. That's why I, the last time, went and just bounced towards the pin using 2.5 to 3 bars of backspin, and just I dropped the eagle every single time. So I have no issues with that. So don't steer yourself blind on the rough bump just because there is a rough bump. I just want to be clear with that. But whatever way works, that's the way you're gonna play. And hole 4, in my opinion, is the best way to make an eagle here on the Akacha reserves. Hole number 5, ladies and gentlemen, a tough par 3. So I'm very curious on how do we approach this one from front tee.
Well, it definitely plays, I think, differently from the first tee as it does the second and third tee. I don't see us needing any right spin or left spin, just a couple of bars of backspin. But let me back it up and just say that I play the shot with 0% elevation, a marlin ball, and I'm typically playing this shot. Did I say the backbone? Yeah, I like to play it with the backbone. There is also a rough bump option here if you're interested. It's not so much for me in rookie with the lower level ball guide. However, depending on your clubs, it's certainly an option. Whatever you do here, make sure you have a consistent landing position. So where that black box is, I like to play it up just slightly from there with the red ring touching the rough. So yeah, this is a tough hole, but I think we're definitely going to get this one dialed in. Mr. RJ, how do you get the hole in one here?
10%. Sniper usually at minimum distance with 2 backspin, full right spin. I set the ball guide up about 1 square left of the pin, but that could be wind dependent. And then I got the blue ring by the right rough. There is also a rough bump, as you also alluded to. That's not actually a bad option. I just haven't been trying it so much. And because I love helping you guys out as much as possible, I've been trying the sand bump as well, but I can't get it to come out of the sand. So I'm still working on that one. What you got, Tommy?
Okay, 30. I must say that this is going to be a very difficult par 3 from 30. I remember it from the last time, and we had a major issue with that we came in too hot. Like, even if we used a lot, like, even if we offset the ball guideline to be short of pin, we did come in hot due to it's very bumpy, and you don't really know where, if the ball is gonna take some speed and just massively roll towards the pin. So I think that this is going to be just a purely birdie hole in general here from 30, and I would really recommend to use side spin 3 ball in any form, because as Matthew said, the angle towards the pin is going to change drastically. And if you're noticing the third tee box that I zoom in right now, that tee box is going to be basically having the complete bunker in our face. So we need to go left, and like we need to come from left to the right with this with using the side spin. 10% over adjustment is what I'm playing from 30 as well. And be really careful with the bunker to the right, because in the end, it's not worth pushing it as hard that we risk going into the bunker if it's not a money shot that we would get a hole in one if we are hitting perfect instead, as it is otherwise. Rough bump, I remember it as that we didn't have the side spin enough to do the rough bump due to the wind wasn't coming left to right. If the wind comes left to right, it's going to be much easier for us to play this hole. If the wind comes right to left, yeah, be prepared for a very tough par 3. Hole number 6, ladies and gentlemen, par 5 with a tough try maybe. Matthew, how do we play from front tee?
Well, I do think it plays differently depending on the wind. However, I do have a hard time believing that we're going to see anything other than at least a partial tailwind on this hole in rookie. I'm going to choose a Titan ball and an extra mile. I'm going to apply maximum right spin. And depending on that wind, about 1 to 3 bars of top spin. I'm going to aim to land between the first and second black squares. And then the idea is to kind of roll up sort of near that third square so that I'm in front of the bunker. Now, you might be tempted to add maximum left spin here, but beware of giving yourself a more difficult second shot than is necessary. We play this way, thank you, Tommy, just to ensure that we have a nice clean shot to the hole for the second shot. Now, I play that second shot at 0% elevation. I'm going to probably bring a sniper here, possibly a Viper on the lower level accounts. Typically, I need about 2 bars of backspin to give myself a very, very realistic chance of an albatross. RJ, my man, tell me about the second tee technique.
Well, we actually have an elevation change here, so we are looking at 20% instead of 10% for pro and expert. You're going to want at least an extra mile 7. I have 7+ written down with full top spin, full right spin, and full right curl with, just like you said, a Titan ball. And we're going to land where the first black box is. And as you can see with the full top spin and just the curl, you're going to end up where the second black box is setting you up with a big dog attempt, or of course Cataclysm. Usually you're going to be set up in a way where you're going to want to go with full left spin and anywhere from 1 to a little bit more back spin, depending on the wind. That's what I got. Is there another elevation change for Masters, Tommy?
No, like, obviously as elevation, I see that as a floating number. Like, we can play elevation in so many different ways, but I per default gonna play 20% over adjustment with the drive. And if we're not having a tailwind, like I mean straight tailwind now from 30, then we're going to play according to the first black mark or the first black line to the left. Bounce over the bunker using approximately 6 to 7 bars of top spin, and then as much side spin to the right possible, then also as much curl to the right possible. I'm not ruling out that we're gonna see a power slice, I think it's called when it comes left to right, a power slice here, as to take away the risk with if we're gonna have to go with max overpower or something like that, then it's better to go with a power slice when we do have an open fairway and we do want to just have that, you know, a better angle to the right. Once we get over there, we're gonna play with a sniper towards the pin. It's not gonna be a long iron if it's not like a straight tailwind when we reach very far, but it's gonna be a sniper towards the pin because we're gonna have distance. And why would we have distance even in headwind? That's because we play with a power 4 ball minimum for the drive, or like yeah, overall on this hole. No elevation for the second shot, and I do believe this is going to be one of the better chances for an albatross here of the Acacia Reserve, but the drive is everything. Bad drive, the albatross attempt is going to be gone, then it's all about saving the eagle. Hole number 7, the final par 3 here in the Safari Sunrise Tournament. Matthew, how do we approach this hole from front tee?
Well, you know, hole 7, I'd say if you're going to play a Kingmaker in rookie on any par 3, this would be the hole that I would recommend, just to have the most amount of wind reduction. At the minimum, pick a navigator here to cut down that wind, adjust for 20% downhill elevation from the first tee. And I'm going to use about 2 bars of backspin in most wind. But of course, has been a lot of at least 1 par 3 headwind hole per tournament in rookie lately. So if it is headwind, make sure you back off that backspin. You're not going to typically need any side spin here. However, if there's a strong crosswind, it is possible you might use a bar or 2. RJ, will you be dunking hole 7?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Just bust out the big topper. That's my favorite one to dunk with. I actually have that we play this with 30% sniper. I keep the red ring by the top right rough. And when I say near, again, I don't want you going too close because we're talking about 30%. And as Tommy had mentioned in the previous hole, that's fluid. if you get like an 11 mile an hour or even maybe a 7 or 8 mile an hour straight headwind, that's going to compress your ball guide more than what you're used to because of the steep drop off from where you're hitting to where you're landing to where the ball's going to end up on the green. However, I've had wonderful luck with this particular hole just in Tour 9 play, and it's with that setup that I just basically mentioned. Like I said, the only time I ever get hurt is when we have a straight headwind in our face. If you have and same thing, if we end up with a 12 mile an hour wind at our back, I would make sure that ball guide comes up quite a bit short. You might end up actually seeing, if you're following Tommy's text guides after playing the holes, depending on the wind, this could be a 50 or 60% elevation just to make sure that we're playing it safe enough not to end up in the bunker or overshooting it. What do you got, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm gonna build on the same thing that you're saying there, that here, sure, I do suggest 50% downhill here from the third tee as we have a massive elevation drop, but we're gonna mixture with those numbers and adapt that to the adjustment that we are having. Sure, there's one thing with a true elevation, as RJ explained, where the ball first is going to bounce, but then what happens after is something that we obviously try to build into our adjustment. We're gonna bounce over the bunker. That's gonna be the same for every tee, in my opinion, because playing over to the right, you know, try to curl it in would be just then I think then we're playing for the birdie. We always should be trying to play for an hole in one, and then once bouncing over the bunker, we will be using all from 2 bars of backspin to 6 bars of backspin, depending on what type of shot, what type of wind we're gonna have. Wind 5 ball though, please. Like, if you can't use a wind 5 ball here, it's gonna be very difficult for you. Sure, you know, you should be able to play with a Kingmaker, but when it's such a massive elevation drop on this one, like a 10 mile per hour is more going to be like a 15 in terms of how that is going to be affecting your shot. And then to reduce the wind to play with 7-8 miles per hour, so we generally play with like a 10, 11, 12 miles per hour in type of strength based on how much is going to be affected by the wind, it's going to be a massive difference. So please use a wind 5 ball if you can, and consider this one to be a birdie hole. Anything else, or like not hole number 8, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the final par 4. And Matthew, how do we play hole number 8 from front tee?
I just want to say, I think this is my favorite hole of the tournament. It's a lot of fun to try to drive the green. So basically, unless we have a headwind, which I really highly doubt in rookie. In fact, I can almost guarantee it on a par 4 we won't. I'm going to play this one with a Titan and my extra mile, and I'm going to aim to land sort of close to where that white square is. If you have like an extra mile 3 or 4, you know, definitely play the, you know, black box, bounce it over to the right, you know, 10% elevation. I think for most players here, you know, we're going to see people going for it, if you will. So yeah, you're going to adjust that shot 10% downhill, maximum topspin, maximum overpower. Now, honestly, I will likely choose one of the free Berserker balls here that I won in the golden shot, thanks to Tommy's guide. Thank you, Tommy. If you do use that power 5 ball, you might even be able to reach the green without complete maximum overpower, depending on the wind. The second shot is usually at the most a short iron, and at the best you'll be putting for an eagle here. So you're welcome to play more conservatively. Take that black line. Absolutely, it's a safer play. But to me, this is the hole that will set the winners apart from the losers in rookie. And we want to be as close to the green as possible to secure our extra drops. So, you know, RJ, do you get to bomb it from the second tee too?
Most likely no, but if we do face, as I just mentioned in the last one, that we get that 11 mile an hour wind in our face on that par 3, well, if we get that 11 mile an hour wind at our back, I feel like a globe might be able to get you there, maybe even just a Berserker, depending on the level of your drivers. And of course, that would be for expert only, because I don't believe pro faces wins quite so high. However, that also doesn't mean that it's not, you know, I'm kind of going on the fly here, because I also see how there's like a bit of a tail that comes down on that second fairway, which really isn't that far from the black box. So we'll have to see. However, I feel like there's a 95% chance that we are going to be playing the black line. And with that, I have extra mile. I have 8+, but I don't see why 7+ wouldn't work. yellow ring right by the rough or by the right rough, unless the wind is blowing left to right. Then when you use a shot, I don't know if it'll be a big deal with the extra mile users, but it will be with the APOC users or quarterback or rock users, probably more so rock. If your wind's blowing that way, you're going to want to give yourself at least 2 or 3 extra rings, because all that curl is going to push you into the rough and ruin a really good opportunity for an eagle. If we're using the black box, I also have a feeling we're going to have a thorn shot or a hornet. You can do the hornet as well with either hitting it right in, or if you want to try the rough bump right by the sand as well. 10% on the drive, 10% on the second shot. What do you got, Tommy?
Yes, 30 straight tailwind or any form of tailwind, we bomb it. And I like no discussion really. And then it's just gonna be the luck of the draw. If you hit perfect, you're gonna be on green with a great shot. It's gonna be lucky if you are on green. Otherwise, it's gonna be in the sand or in the rough, where I'm gonna hit great 99% of the times. but you might be playing it better. But you know, I don't like those type of ways of playing, as you all know, but that's gonna be the way to play. And if we do get tailwind here, because the possibility, or like the percentage chance of getting to green with a tailwind here is gonna be massive. It's not really gonna be that massive of a gamble if we do try to go for it in tailwind. Otherwise, we bounce over the rough and try to get ourselves into a consistent distance all the time. This is a linear hole, which means that we can rely on yardage notes. So with a crosswind or with a headwind, we're going to try to just get ourselves over to the right, and then we're going to either play with a Thorn Hornet or the Falcon, depending on what you feel comfortable with. There is a rough bump there to be played. That is above the top left bunker by the green, which with a crosswind would be very interesting, but we do need a decent amount of topspin where we can play with an upgraded Falcon or play with the runner. Yes, the runner, which has a lot of topspin. So that's an interesting way of approaching the pin if that would be the case. But again, you know, kind of wind dependent on how we're gonna play that one. In the end, this is from the 30. Obviously it's a par 4, but it is going to be a must eagle on this par 4. I do believe that this, together with hole number 4, is going to be the 2 drops that we need to be able to get to have a chance of winning the tournament, because I do think that the drops on the other holes is going to be way harder to claim. 10% over adjustment for the drive. Obviously, if we are close to the green or on the green, we're not going to use any elevation there. Then second shot, according to the black line. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the final par 5, hole number 9, which is also the final hole in the tournament. So Matthew, how do we play hole 9 from front tee?
You know, Tommy, I truly believe that the white line is the way I'm going to play hole 9. The black one is not wrong, but for me, I'm going to choose the extra mile, adjusted for 10% downhill, or your driver with the most power and topspin, choosing anywhere from a Titan ball to a berserker. Apply maximum topspin and as much overpower as you're comfortable with, preferably maximum, to get as far down that fairway as possible. If you do get far enough, you see where that white second box is. It kind of opens up and flares open, so it's definitely a reasonably makeable overpower shot here. The second shot, it's played as a rough bump with either a sniper, preferably, or a Viper club, 0% elevation. It's the play here, and in my walkthrough, I did sink this rough bump with 0 spin. You know, it just set up so nicely, I think, using even a sniper level 5. So if you can't quite reach the rough bump due to having a shorter drive, just play it safe to the left-hand side of that bunker, and you're still going to have a short, safe chip for eagle. Mr. RJ, bring us home, sir.
All right. Well, I am going to be playing this with a big topper, or an extra mile, or an apocalypse, or a Thor, depending on what you have. 10% white line. You should be able to just go right over that rough area. You don't have to bounce over it. You can actually hit it over. Nothing wrong with using a power 5 ball here or a power 3 ball, depending on what clubs you're using. If you're in pro and we're facing a headwind, if you got a berserker, I would use it. If you got, you know, an APOC 7 and, you know, you're playing with tailwind or whatever, you know, sure, you could probably actually get away with power 1 ball there, but I don't think we'll be So lucky from the Golf Clash gods to get that. 0% with either a big dog or a sniper for the rough bump on our second approach. Also, when I said big topper or any other club, obviously that means full top spin. And if you're good enough, see, me personally, I just aim for the middle of the fairway because I'm not good enough to hit perfect as often as I would like to. But if you have no problem hitting perfects, a little right spin or setting up a little bit closer to the right-hand side of the fairway is going to get you a little bit closer for that rough bump. So if we do face like an in-between, like we'll be right at a max sniper, if you hit it perfect, you know, yes, aim a little bit to the right, closer to the rough on the left fairway. For your rough bump, we do have 0% elevation, so that'll make things a little bit easier. I have not been lucky enough to drop this, but good old Matt has, and I'm sure good old Tommy has. How you playing this, Tommy?
I'm gonna play the same way here, left hand side, white line, and here it's going to be, you know, if we do have a crosswind or a little headwind, we're gonna go max overpower and we're gonna bounce before the rough and then roll as far down that we possible can. If we do have any form of tailwind, we're gonna actually carry over the rough and then go even further, obviously, because then we do have a tailwind and we can reach further. And we're looking for the rough bump, we're looking for it with a sniper or with the Cataclysm. It's not wrong to use the Cataclysm here to make sure that no matter what happens, you're going to have the distance for the rough bump, and especially with a crosswind or with a headwind for the drive, when we cannot carry over the first piece of rough, then the Cataclysm would be the better option, just to, once again, to make sure that we're going to reach power 4+ in terms of what type of ball you're going to play with. And it could be, and again, it's wind dependent. Like if we're gonna use wind resistance, like a lot of wind resistance, or you know, a lower type of wind resistance ball. So in the end, we're gonna leave that towards the Golf Clash gods in what they pick as wind for us here. This could be actually a very good albatross attempt. It could also be a pain to actually get the eagle. So we'll see what type of wind we're gonna have. 10% over adjustment for the drive, nothing for the second shot, and then we have hole 9 from 30. So everyone, thank you so much for watching this walkthrough for the text guides for the Safari Sunrise tournament. You can find the general text guides in the description down below and also on golfclashtommy.com. Have in mind they are general. They do not display the wind that we're gonna have in the tournament because no one knows. And that's why if you do want to have the direct guides based on the tournament wind, you subscribe to Patreon and get the ultimate tournament text guides. Guys, what do you think? We'll start with you, Matthew. If we talk rookie here, what do you think will win this tournament?
You know, I think if you can manage to get 2 drops per 9 holes, so roughly like a -14, I think in most rookie brackets, you're going to find yourself in the top 3. There's definitely going to be a few less and a few more, but I do think that's going to be kind of the average, at least for a good banner.
What do you think, RJ? Second tee here.
Unfortunately, I'm seeing -32s, and I say unfortunately because I might have gotten a -30 once in my life. But hopefully we can lock this down, and you know, I could be way off. It could be a -28 if we get a bunch of headwind and a bunch of, you know, bad. So it's really hard to say, but somewhere in between I'd say between -36 and -24 might be able to get you gold.
I love how you gave up the gold already today from it for yourself. No, I think Master it's gonna be 30-32s, something like that. Obviously wind dependent. If a lot of headwind, we're gonna see a -30 being a really good score, but with some tailwinds where we can actually go a little full blast and stuff like that, then you know 32, 33 might not be impossible. But I see hole 4 and hole 8 as, and also hole 1, those the 3 par 4s really to be the ones to drop, maybe with hole number 3 as an extra, that first par 3, and you know par 5s is always tough to drop in Masters. So it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be like it was the last tournament, at least. That I can almost promise. But, you know, boys, thank you so much for being here this time. And, you know, I hope you're going to be here the next time as well. And,
thank you.
You know, if you guys would have heard the talks in between the recordings, you would be a bit scared. But it's a lot of fun, and thank you so much to each and every one of you watching this as well. And don't forget to comment with whatever question you have, and also hit the freaking thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And we will see you all when the tournament starts, the Safari Sunrise Tournament. Thank you so much once again, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Happy stroking.
Bye.